Ever see a fight and think, why didn't they stop that sooner? Well, I've got 10 of those moments today. These are the top 10 worst MMA late stoppages ever, and you are not going to believe your eyes when you see who is the #1 worst stoppage ever. So stay until the end. And at number 10, we have Khabib Nurmagomedov versus Thiago Tavares. For his third UFC fight, Khabib Nurmagomedov took on Thiago Tavares. Now, this was before Khabib fully evolved into the MMA powerhouse we recognize today, but he was still a huge threat, and he showed that in this bout. He surprised everyone with a sharp lead uppercut, sending Tavares crashing to the canvas. While Tavares tried to get back up by grabbing Khabib's leg, Nurmagomedov took full advantage and hit him with over 10 unanswered elbows. Still, Dan Miragliotta, the referee that night, let the fight keep rolling even when it was painfully clear Tavares was out of it. The whole arena could see it was over, but the ref just let it continue. It was a decision many, including Dana White, found hard to swallow. At number 9, we have Matt Brown versus Pete Sell at UFC 96. Just a few seconds into this fight, Brown landed a powerful right on Sell, sending him sprawling to the mat. Everyone thought it was wrapped up. Yves Levine, the ref, jumped in like he was about to end the show. We were all just waiting for Mike Goldberg to drop his usual, "It's all over."
It's all over!
But things took a really weird turn. Levine appeared to second-guess himself. He backed away, allowing a visibly dazed Sell to get back up and keep fighting.
Go ahead. Good job by Yves Levine. He says go ahead, but Sell's still hurt.
Then, for what felt like the longest time, Matt had to keep hitting Pete. Eventually, Pete just fell, and it wasn't even from a big blow or anything. The couple of punches Matt threw afterward, they looked less like fight enders and more like, "Can we please just wrap this up?" It took a bit, but Levine finally called it. All in all, the whole thing was just a huge mess. And at number 8, we have Pat Curran versus Joe Warren at Bellator 60. This fight was a cruel, sickening, and near-criminal piece of officiating by referee Jeff Mallett. From that knee Curran landed in the 3rd round, it was pretty clear Warren was in deep trouble. I mean, the dude was barely hanging on, just absorbing hits left and right. Looked like he was running on autopilot, just trying not to fall down. I've watched enough fights to know when someone's not really in it anymore. Warren was showing all the signs of a guy who needed the fight to be stopped. Turning away, stumbling, leaning on the cage, classic signs that he's not all there. But for some reason, the ref, Mallett, let it continue. It was not until Warren's body finally gave in and he collapsed that Mallett intervened. This delayed intervention obviously raised a lot of questions. But while it's tempting to concoct wild theories about personal vendettas or ulterior motives, the best possible explanation is also the most disheartening: utter incompetence. At number 7, we have Paul Craig versus Jamal Hill at UFC 263. Craig had Hill in an armbar, and as he put the pressure on, it became clear to everyone watching that something had gone terribly wrong with Hill's left arm. It looked as if it had snapped at the elbow. Now, what's shocking was referee Al Ghani's lack of immediate intervention. Hill's arm dangled unnaturally, while Craig attempted another move. When Ghani finally did intervene, the damage was painfully obvious. The subsequent news that Hill's arm was dislocated, not broken, provided a small relief. Yet questions lingered. How much more harm did those extra seconds inflict on Hill's arm?
Oh my God! Look at his arm just flopping around.
And
that
the referee,
is crazy.
Al Ghani, is going to stop the
Just
fight.
stop it. Just stop it.
At number 6, we have Khalid Murtazaliyev versus CB Dalloway at UFC Fight Night 136. When Murtazaliyev and CB Dalloway went head-to-head, a lot of people were confused and worried because of what the referee Herb Dean did or didn't do. As the fight reached the 2nd round, Khalid was really giving it to Dalloway. It was clear to anyone watching that Dalloway was in big trouble. He was on the ground a lot, just trying to shield himself from the punches coming his way. Normally, if a fighter isn't fighting back and just getting hit, the ref steps in to stop the fight. But for some reason, Herb Dean, the ref, let it go on. By the time the round ended, Dalloway was so hurt that he couldn't even get back to his corner. That's when Dean finally said the fight was over. But many fans were left wondering, why didn't he stop it sooner? Hey, but before we continue, please make sure to like, subscribe, and ring the notification bell so you won't miss any of our future videos. Now, at number 5, we have Luke Rockhold versus Chris Weidman. Back then, Chris Weidman was the guy everyone was talking about. Undefeated, holding the title, he was like the king of the hill. And just when you thought he'd stay up there for a while, along came his fight with Luke Rockhold. The fight started pretty evenly matched, both of them sizing each other up, trading punches and kicks. But then, out of nowhere, Chris tried to pull off a wheel kick. However, the risk backfired and Luke didn't miss a beat. He saw that Chris went down and went wild. Many felt that the referee, Herb Dean, could have stepped in sooner given the volume and intensity of Rockhold's onslaught, but he, for some reason, let the fight go till the end of the round. When the horn sounded, Chris was visibly shaken and battered.
What does it take to stop a fight? Wow. That easily could have been stopped.
Although the fight continued briefly into the next round, it was evident that Chris was not the same. His night, and in some ways, the unbeatable aura he carried, was over. At number 4, we have Shane Carwin versus Frank Mir. In the first round, with just a bit over 90 seconds left, Carwin had Mir pinned against the cage. He landed a solid left hook followed by some quick and hard-hitting uppercuts, which sent Mir down to the mat. Mir tried to roll away, but Carwin kept coming. He landed a series of powerful left hook blows to Mir's unprotected head, and Mir ended up face down on the canvas, not moving. Despite the fact that Mir was out cold, referee Big Dan Miragliotta didn't call the fight. He watched on as Carwin delivered 7 more devastating left hook blows to Mir's unprotected head. It was almost like Miragliotta was waiting for a miracle, but in the end, he finally stepped in to put the unconscious Mir out of his misery. Next up at number 3, we have Derek Lewis versus Travis Brown. At the start of the night, Brown was looking sharp, landing some hard body kicks that even seemed to stun Lewis. But things took a turn when Lewis managed to drop Brown to the mat. What happened next was a brutal ground and pound assault. It was clear to everyone watching that Brown was out of it, but referee Mario Yamasaki, well, he seemed to be in a different world. He allowed Brown to take a few more clean shots from Lewis, who's known for having some of the heaviest hands in MMA. The result? Brown took some unnecessary damage, and his career hasn't been quite the same since that fight. At number 2, let's talk about Gary Goodridge versus Paul Herrera. At the sound of the opening bell, Herrera went for a takedown against the much larger Goodridge. However, things didn't go as planned. Goodridge quickly turned the tables, taking Herrera down and putting him in an incredibly unusual position. He trapped one of Herrera's arms with his legs and the other with his arms, essentially leaving Herrera outstretched on his back like a human pretzel. Goodridge started delivering elbow strikes, targeting Herrera's temple. The first blow seemed to knock Herrera out cold, but Goodridge didn't stop there. He unleashed 7 more devastating elbows to the same spot on his already unconscious opponent. It was a brutal display. Referee Big John McCarthy, who was still relatively new to the game at that time, admitted that he, like everyone else, was caught by surprise. He wasn't in the best position to stop the action as quickly as he would have liked, and Herrera ended up taking a significant amount of damage that night. Finally, at number 1, we have Valentina Shevchenko versus Priscilla Cachoeira. Right from the start, it was clear that this fight was a mismatch of epic proportions. Shevchenko, with her world-class kickboxing skills, was landing clean, powerful shots on Cachoeira almost at will. The matchmaking wasn't to blame for the one-sided nature of the bout, but referee Yamasaki's decisions on the ground certainly were. As brutal as Shevchenko's striking was, the fight turned into an absolute bloodbath once it hit the ground. Bullet unleashed a relentless barrage of vicious strikes until she finally put an end to the fight with a rear naked choke. The problem? Yamasaki had multiple opportunities to stop the fight and spare Cachoeira from unnecessary damage, but chose not to. To make matters worse, Cachoeira also suffered a serious knee injury during the bout. Yamasaki initially claimed he wanted to let Cachoeira be a warrior, but he later admitted that he needed to go back to referee school.
I think it's disgusting. I think he's disgusting, and I never want to see him reffing ever again. No, you moron. You're in there to protect her from herself.
His actions in that fight drew significant backlash online, and rightfully so. It's widely considered one of the most brutal late stoppages in MMA history, and it raised important questions about fighter safety and the role of referees in the sport. So, which one of these fights had you screaming for the bell? Leave a comment below. But that's it for today. See ya!